Here. So Kenny, Phil, always so good to have you. Like I said, I think we're going to try to make you regular guests here for the ClearAngel crew. And remember, Phil and Kenny have this amazing podcast called Disc Life. And if you haven't already subscribed to it, you definitely should. It's one of the ways I keep in touch with all things commerce and retail, and it's a really great free resource for you to go and be constantly kind of looking at. So definitely check that out. So really, I'd love to kind of for those of you here, start using the chat to start asking questions and just jump right in. This is really more kind of an experiment where we source questions from the audience and we sort of have an agenda in advance. This time, we're really just relying on you to ask questions to Kenny and Phil. And obviously, I've got a few up my sleeve here if we need to get the ball rolling. But looking there, Nadia, Lori, Sloan, if there's any questions, feel free to chime in, and if not, I can take the first one.
We'd love to, before, I know there's like kind of 30 people-ish signed up for this, but like I can still see all the boxes on the same screen. Would you guys mind, either you can tell us by mic or you can tell us in the chat, but I think what would help us too is what industries you're in or what industries you belong to. Usually for Kenny and I, like, it just helps with frame of reference, right? Because every industry has its own kind of mechanics. It's got its own weird little things. Like, it helps us just get kind of grounded in what you guys do.
Phil and I both have different skill sets, so it also changes how we might look at things. Because I don't know how much Kent has told you. I don't know what you've told him about us or what we do outside of.
Kenny does all the work. So
just
anything you got, you just send it at Kenny. It's all good. I just keep sending it.
Kenny associates himself with people who help him do all the work. So in this case, it's Phil, who really and truly does all the work between the two of us. Like, he really does. We do a podcast together. I have no idea how to do a podcast outside of showing up for my hour time slot, and I just do my thing. But I have no idea past that how we do a podcast. I have no idea.
Awesome. There's always one. Well, no. Here, I can kick us off if there's no sort of questions out the gate. So I think the one that we've been getting a lot from our founders as they're starting to, and actually you helped us with one just recently around really understanding brokers and distributors and looking at contracts around gotchas and things like that you can see in contracts. And I wanted to get your take on, and even if this is something we should be building up more of on our side, is like, when you're looking at those distributor agreements, are you sending those to your lawyer? Do you have a lawyer that specializes in looking at those agreements? Are you sending them to your general lawyer that you're using for all of your same incorporation and businesses? Or are you sending it to people like yourself? Like, if you were signing one of those and you wanted to get eyes on it, are you invoking a lawyer there, or are you invoking somebody who has just seen a lot of those contracts in the past? If you guys sort of want to talk through that, because we're, Kenny, I'll let you sort of kind of kick us off here.
So, with the contacts that we had, Ken sent me someone the other day who was, sometimes the terminology too, right? So Ken sent me a note, say, hey, this person's looking for a distributor. They've got a contract set up. They're looking for a retainer. Then they were looking for commissions and a bunch of other things, right? So I went through it, and just for your even sake, Ken, like, the context was, there's a distributor, there's agents and brokers, and they're two different things, right? An agent and a broker is someone who's going to represent you in, like in my cases, most of my work is done in retail. So they would represent you at retail, whether it's with a Loblaws or if it's a Kroger's, if you're from the States, or whoever it is. GTX, right. I don't care what you're dealing with, but it'd be that person. And a distributor is someone who physically moves goods for you. Like, they move boxes. right? Now they can
Right.
also act as an agent and a broker, but their main function is to move boxes. The other person is basically to get appointments and get you business. So things like that are important because you got to make sure you know what you're looking at. For myself, Kent, it depends on what it is. If it's a simple contract, I shouldn't say simple. If it's a relatively simple contract, like a broker agreement or a distributor agreement, and it's in parts that I'm quasi comfortable in, a lot of times I'll go through it myself. I know what I'm looking for, but I will always defer to my lawyer. I will, just because it's always nuances.
Right.
It's and/or as opposed to an or as opposed to an and. I know those, like, we catch a lot of those, but you'd be amazed how much you don't catch.
Right.
Right. And for the most part, like, I truly believe this, most people are not out to get you. Most people, when they're doing the contracts, I think, are pretty honest people. I don't think there's really any malintent for the most part. There's always sharks out there, people that really want to get you. But for the most part, if you read through it carefully, you could probably go back to whoever's writing it and ask the questions. But I would still, honestly, I would defer to a lawyer. Yeah. I have mine, and we've had him on our podcast. Like, he does a lot of small business work. That's what he specializes in. So I would suggest the same. You guys, I'm assuming, are all relatively small businesses. I would definitely have a really good lawyer in my back pocket, like a really good lawyer. And I would probably have a good accountant in my back pocket too, because
for sure. Phil, how about you? Are you kind of the same? Are you kind of the same as Kenny?
Yeah. I'm probably, for me, I think the lawyer is even bigger because I look at even less of these contracts than Kenny does. So while I'm used to it, there are kind of like key phrases I look for, but the truth is, like, a lawyer will just, and I guess the one thing that I would add to that is just, like, from a, when you're looking at these, like, don't try and find, like, go through industry folks like Kenny and I, or Kent, to find someone who is in the industry, like a lawyer that's in the industry. So everyone knows, a lawyer of some sort that either does wills or real estate, but they're fine for standard contracts, but, like, these kind of lawyers that are kind of in the industry, they will pick it up quick. Like, they'll kind of know where it's like a real estate lawyer, right? Like, those guys, they know what the boilerplates are and they know where they trip up on things. So that makes the process a whole lot faster if you've got someone that that's in the industry.
No, yeah, and something that we've been thinking about ever since last November, when we sort of incepted how we would start to continue to earn trust and earn value from our founders, is this idea of like a contract review tool or service where we could go build that bench of good lawyers and make sure that we got advice from our lawyer that there's reasons why we shouldn't offer a service like that at carte blanche. Right. But I think, Kenny, to your point, it would be great to even connect with your lawyer and just start to build more services like that, where when our customers have contract questions, of course we can advise them from a pricing, from a deal structure perspective. But I like how strong you are saying, no, 100% get your lawyer to review this.
Oh, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get people like Phil and I can look at things. I mean, I can tell you, what that person said the other day. I mean, without getting into details, Ken, like, I mean, I thought that the retainer rate was high on the outset, but understand it once I looked at the product, because his product is not going to move a ton of boxes, and brokers and agents don't want to sit there and do a ton of work for nothing.
Right.
Right. Yep. So they want retainers. So it depends on what you're doing. I mean, you could have people wanting retainers, which is fine. It's part of the business, or high commissions. And you might not be happy with that, but they're sitting looking at it thinking, well, what do you want us to do?
Right.
I'm not going to sell anything for the first 4 months. I need to make some money.
Right.
And when I finally do sell it, I don't want to make peanuts.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Anyway, thanks guys for kicking off. That was the main question on my list. Lee, if possible, I'd like to kind of pass it over to you and let you guys sort of field the questions from it looks like we've got some good questions from the comments here, and I might I'm gonna have to sneak out here. So Kenny and Phil, thank you so much for being here again, and we're gonna make this a recurring thing to get you here. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
Okay. Bye, Ken.
So this is cool. We've got I'm just going from the top. So Lori, you're you're a reseller.
You got to read these.
I know you're a resale shop. That's cool.
Yes. Yes, I do an e-commerce resale shop. It's mainly focused on eBay right now, but we're branching off into our own, doing some branding, and we just got a retail space to open up a postage and shipping store as well. So.
Oh, that's cool. So what do you resell?
What kind of stuff do you resell?
Yeah.
An array of everything. We do a lot of collectibles. We do a lot of toys. We do a lot of clothing that sells really well. I am a personal toy collector myself. I have a little bit of an issue with these guys right here. So, you know, anything that'll gain value really quickly. I watch like a hawk. And it just kind of.
I've been a card collector since I was a little kid. I think I have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I would have kept some of the stuff that I had when I was like a small child. I mean, it's ridiculous. But both me and my brother have been collecting for years, and I mean, it's but I found a solution. So I get
found eBay years ago. It's still a problem.
Yeah, well, I get 2 of everything, and I resell 1 for 400% profit.
Exactly.
And, there we go. Bada bing, bada boom.
No, it's all good, man.
eBayers, we both love it. Like I
love eBay.
Kenny just laughs at my collections. I don't have anything worth anything. I clearly have no idea what I'm doing collecting, but I'm the other way. So I see a lot of electronics that get brought in. That retailers will sell, and I kind of go, for how much money? Like I can do, so I do a lot of that stuff. So.
Yeah, you never know. It's the most obscure stuff that people will be looking for, and that's kind of what got me into it. I'm like you, like I would just start buying toys and stuff and electronic stuff that I liked, just because I liked them, not even knowing that there was a valuation. So, once the closet started getting full, and I needed to move some stuff. Yeah, looked it up. I was like, whoa, this could be good.
Yeah, you can definitely do well on it.
With the pandemic and everything going on, are you seeing, like now that you guys, so we're Canadian, so we're just coming out of the pandemic. We've had some pretty big lockdowns. Where you are, you guys are ahead of us in terms of coming out of it. Are you seeing any changes that way? Like, are you seeing a slowdown or a pickup, or kind of like steady as you go in terms of your business?
I've personally seen since the very beginning, I've seen a sharp increase and then a very steady slowdown, even still, and it hasn't steadied yet for me. I'm hoping that once we get past the summer months, maybe even through the summer, even though it's typically not good, that it will kind of steady. We've managed to be able to still somehow grow. I don't know if that's just because we're just implementing different things, but as far as numbers go, no. So we're just trying new things and trying different stuff. I'm just glad I don't have to wear that face bra in the summer anymore. The thing was ridiculous.
But we're still mandated up here, so we still have to wear them.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Probably, I think probably for another couple of weeks. I mean, Canada's pretty strict on everything. We're definitely rule followers versus a lot of other countries. Like we probably lean more to what Europe does. If they tell us to do things, we piss and moan. But unlike Americans, where you guys actually piss and moan and do something about it, we just piss and moan.
I'm in Texas.
And we comply, and we're pretty good. We get into line, and we do our thing.
Yeah. We're completely non-compliant in Texas. We're just like, screw y'all. No, not doing it. We're supposed to.
We just say we're not going to do it, and then we go outside and we make sure we do it because we don't want to be. We don't want to look like we're not helping out or something. Right?
Oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. No problem. And we're like, no way.
Anyway, Laura, your business is cool because I've been collecting since a little kid. I do cards, I do coins, I do watches. I've owned.
And I'm fixing to get them Magic Gathering cards too.
Yeah. I've spent way too much money this last year. It's out of control.
But hey, come on.
Love it. I could do it all day. Been on eBay for 25 years since it started in '96. So I've been on since the beginning.
It is. It's addicting.
Oh, it's highly addictive. Highly addictive. So we should keep going. I love your story, Lori, because I could talk hobbies all day. Sloan, you're an alcohol-free e-commerce marketplace. What the heck is
that? So we basically are just a reseller. We have over 275 different products we have a bunch from Canada, actually, some from the States, Europe. We source from pretty much anywhere. And then we curate boxes, and we have a subscription model. So we're testing out different things. We're traction of sales probably until from December on. So we're pretty new. But yes.
What are you reselling? What type of things?
Just alcohol-free beers, wines, spirits, mixers, like adult beverage, ready to drink, nootropics. We have pretty much everything of the alcohol-free market that's coming out. It's growing really rapidly. We add a new product to the website pretty much every week.
Wow,
that's really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting. It's neat, right? Like this idea that you can go to a place that curates for that, as opposed to like a broad market that, you know.
I guess you go to a liquor store, they curate the other side. I mean,
right?
The opposite of the liquor store.
Right.
Particularly.
And a lot of liquor stores don't carry what we carry. There's a few products that we're the only ones that sell them in the US as well, besides like very niche bottle shops. There's now 4 strictly alcohol-free bottle shops in New York City. But everywhere else it's very limited.
So have you locked up like exclusivity with some of these manufacturers or vendors of yours?
No, not yet. It's pretty hard to pitch that with the products, because when they're new, they don't really want to have exclusive rights. They want to try to sell through as many channels as possible. But we're hoping to in the future once we have a little bit more leverage.
Good for you. Wow, cool.
Since we have you chatting here, Sloan, do you want to ask your question live right now?
Sure. I basically just said that my mom and I listen to a lot of like business podcasts, and nobody really talks about growing pains and how real that they are. So I just didn't know if you had any experience or advice on them. We had like a very huge spike in sales in December. We went from having no sales to over $100,000 in sales. So we immediately were like, we need a warehouse. We have a small warehouse now, but we were looking at expanding very rapidly. And we pumped the brakes on that, and we're happy that we did, just because we obviously didn't know a lot at the moment. And we just knew that there's an idea that could work, and we didn't necessarily know how to sustain that. And to work it efficiently. So we pumped the brakes, luckily. So I just didn't know if you had any advice on growing pains.
Not so much advice. I think what you found is probably what most people do. I think what happens is, you go from 0 to 100, sort of what you said, and you get really stoked and really pumped, and you're going to go get warehouses, you're going to hire a few people, you're going to carry $100,000 worth of inventory. And really one of the first things you learn is who's funding this adventure. Is it the house? Like you can go mortgage the house, because most people don't have, a couple $100,000 lying around that, if they lose it, it's not the end of the world. Most people are investing their lives into things, right? And that's what Phil and I probably seen a ton of people. You kind of say, listen, pumping the brakes is not a bad idea. Like really take a look at it before you start to grow. Like you want to grow. I get it. We all do. But, how much risk do you want? Going to banks, going to lenders can be scary, right? I mean, these guys here do seem to have a pretty cool setup on how they sort of lend you money, which is pretty neat. And it sounds like a lot less problematic than probably going to a financial institution. But, you still owe money. And
right. And we're definitely really thankful to them. But with Clearco and then a couple other angels and then a founders round, we've raised 500,000 so far.
You've raised $500,000?
Wow,
good for you.
But that's mainly going to kind of like inventory and growing the business and spending on ads and outreach.
That's where it goes though, right?
But I think so. The one piece I would give there that is just to think, the business is going to go fast and furious, right? And there's an inclination to jump in and do, right? Because when you start, that's what you do, right? Like if you don't do it, it doesn't start, and you don't start until you do it. But once you start doing, there's a lot of value in thinking and planning. And so we're the pumping the brakes thing, I think, it's not fortuitous. It's because you guys were thinking about it, right? You guys were thinking, wait. So I got it. The 100 grand we could use, but the like 2 steps ahead is wait, now what? So how do I like once I have a warehouse, how do I go back to putting things in my garage if I need to? Like if I hire 8 people to help me with the business now, what happens to those 8 people if I can't keep the business going? So I think that's where Kenny's going too, is
Totally.
do some planning, get that thinking ahead so that you're thinking about it. Like the hardest chart that I think Kenny and I have looked at in the last 6 months is a business that we've worked with where the inventory line is here and the cash flow line is down here. And so that gap is so painful.
The delta is getting so big.
We were like, woo, we could do this. And then we're like, oh, actually, we don't have any more money to do anything because it's all up here. So anyway, I think it's like, how do you think about it a couple of steps ahead? Grow, but with some moderation. Make sure you're looking after those. You're thinking about those things, right? It's your life. It's the lives of people that you hire around you that you've got to like. It's amazing to dream and to get there, but it's also like a lot of. It's a lot.
I think talking to people, or I know most of the podcasts. I mean, it's like anything. Most will. Like when you listen to a lot of people, like if you're watching, like whether it's, dragons in Canada, or if it's shark in the States, or if you're leading a pot, everything sounds easy, right? I mean, they just go and they had an idea and they put $1,000 in and they're billionaires, and you're thinking like, oh shit, okay, I can do this too. Like, let's just go. But you got to look at things in context. Like your business, I would never have based. I'm glad you didn't. I would never have based my growth for the 6 months after December on December sales. You're going to definitively be a party Christmas gathering. You're going to be a very seasonal play, right? And if I look at what Lori's doing,
you up for the summer, right? Yeah.
So Jan, Feb, March are going to be dead for you, relatively speaking. So you go mental and start buying warehouses, and now you're in a pickle. Lori's in the same spot. Like, because I'm a collector, and I've seen cycles and collectibles go for years. You can go crazy and buy all the toys you want because they're hot today. Are they hot tomorrow? But how much do you want? Like how much? Again, risk it's your risk aversion or not that drives a lot of this. A lot of people just say, I'm going. Me and Phil are usually saying yes, but I would probably write it on paper first and just start looking at, here's all the positives. You can't tell me there's no cons in this. Like there's got to be a few pitfalls, and if you can't see them, ask somebody. Like people like us. I mean, a lot of times we'll even have people on the podcast because it's not so much about building out. It's about trying to help out and say, okay, listen, here's a situation. Here's 12 examples we can show you of what they did. 6 went one way, 6 went the other. Not for any wrong necessary reason. It's just sometimes things happen. You don't look ahead. You missed the signpost that was coming and you clipped it. But I think what you're doing is thinking is the way to do it. Those are the growing pains, my dear, because that's the hardest part. Yeah. Is you're just never too sure when it's foot on or foot off.
Right. Luckily, we have a lot of terms with the majority of our vendors. So the whole inventory cash flow thing, we kind of have that under control. But we're shipping glass that's highly breakable, and the weather is super important to that. So that's actually one of the main reasons why I wanted to tune into this to get your advice to see if you had anyone. We're based in Connecticut. I don't know if there's like network somewhere, whether with Clearco or with you guys, if you know anyone that could give us kind of advice on packaging and fulfillment. We have a super small team that's a hodgepodge of different backgrounds, but none are really in supply chain. Or
are you using a distributor? Sorry, Sloan, are you using a distributor right now, or are you the actual distributor?
No, we do everything.
Okay.
We package everything here.
That makes it definitely a little more interesting. You got more control. And you kind of
our business model is also really like no box is the same, and no product is the same. So it's hard. We can't like outsource that to a 3PL just yet.
Liquids too, eh? It's the weight.
Yeah. Right, and since it's alcohol free, it freezes.
Right.
Yeah, you need climate control for winter months for sure. Even in summer months, to be honest. I mean, you don't want stuff shipping at 125 degrees. Inside of a back of a truck.
We're doing some things, but I just didn't know if there was anyone in any network that you knew that we could discuss kind of further.
There's tons of distributors that would do the pick pack shit for you.
Yeah.
Right. We're not
Tons.
necessarily looking for that. We're looking for
Right.
kind of an advisor to come in and help us with what we have currently. We're going to try to hold on to our fulfillment as long as possible. We'll outsource certain products that we sell at high volumes, but everything else we'll try to keep control over.
To help you optimize your supply chain in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anybody offhand.
It's something I'd probably take offline. I mean, we can have a chat, because I'm trying to think how to help you on that too. I mean, my mind always goes, I'm even looking at your distribution and trying to understand it, but it's too hard to do on a.
I'm sure, like Kenny and I have lots of supply chain people in our backgrounds that would probably be able to come in and look at it. So maybe it's more, but yeah, we can definitely take that off.
Okay, if we can take this offline, that would be great.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool.
Okay, thank you so much.
So Carrie, do you want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself and maybe ask your question live here?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I created a subscription box based business because I was looking for a gift for myself and couldn't find it. Got frustrated and created it for other people. So we curate all of our boxes around the novel that we choose. And so we have a curated reading experience. It's not just a novel and some stuff. It's all connected together. And we have chosen to stay in Canada to Canadians. Canadians love to read and love to read actual books.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a really strong, loyal customer base. And we've pushed ahead as the market leader. We've won awards in our space. We're definitely the top in book subscriptions for Canada. But what we're finding is that, we know there are millions of Canadians that would love this product, and we ship to every province and territory, which is awesome. And our customers, certainly in the North, really appreciate the access to a variety of goods. We support small Canadian businesses by ordering from them and showcasing their products, so they get the advantage of Canadians from coast to coast, north to south, to get the access to that, which results in lots of purchasing for them.
Yeah.
My big question is we're spending money in marketing. We have a great marketing partner, but do you have advice for subscription-based businesses, to get out to people? I mean, subscription is still for lots of Canadians, it's still a new idea compared to our southern neighbors, but, and we really want to focus on the experience. We're not trying to compete with FabFitFun or any of those ones that offer, $300 for $80. So
can you tell me, so your marketing that you're doing now, is it like a lot of it's social media marketing? So Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the subscription box stuff is interesting. It's interesting and it's hard, right? Like, it's interesting because people who are in it really love it. But to crack into it, it requires you breaking into multiple habits, kind of multiple routines. And then the gift box idea is really interesting because you are crossing multiple habits, but you're also, that's the bad part, is you're crossing multiple habits. There's probably a bunch of things you could do. I mean, depending on the novel that you're doing, like, do you wind up getting the book plus, the book plus, whatever is inside the gift box, or do they have to order the book and then they would come to you and get the gift box? Like, how does that work?
So it all comes together. So they purchase it together, and it's a surprise. They don't know what novel they're getting or what the contents are until it arrives. And we do limited edition boxes, which are more like genre based, so that people, and that's a great access point in to get people who are suspense or
Yeah.
mystery lovers. Our Beach Reads box is one of our biggest for the year.
Are you, yeah, so the things that come to mind the most are the influencers in between, because I feel like, so I'm a book reader. I studied English lit in school. Everyone always asks me that when I say that, but I'm an English lit poli-sci major with a minor in philosophy and creative writing. So I have no idea how I wound up in business and in marketing, but I'm
That's
here.
like my background.
But like reviews is a really big part of how you discover books. So I wonder if part of your marketing process is to try and figure out how to get to some of these reviewers, whether there's a partnership that you can do with somebody, dare I say it, but like Canadian authors in particular, like, I mean, I don't know if you're exclusive to that, but Canadian authors are kind of always looking for revenue streams. So like a partnership with a Canadian author would probably help you. So if they're launching a book, to be able to tag along to their, I don't, so book signing, Canadian book signings are the loneliest experiences ever, because nobody, like you park yourself at an Indigo and like 4 people come up. I think I actually have all these books I've never read, because every time I'm in an Indigo or a Chapters and there's an author signing, like I've one short story anthology published, but like I've never done a signing, right? Like I've never been that big ever. But I look at some of these guys and I feel bad for them, right? Because they're authors and they're sitting there and they're kind of like, because on TV it's like a lineup at the door or whatever, and then here there's nobody, right? So I easily have 4 or 5 books that I felt bad and I just bought the book, but never really had. But I wonder if there's not some partnerships that you could do that would help you be able to get that word out a little bit more. And then I wonder if it's really complicated, so I don't know if you want to go that route, but like to do like multiple partnerships. So let's say it's a suspense novel, to be able to do like a local mystery room sign up. Maybe you get 10% off your what do they call them now? The rooms, the game rooms, the puzzle rooms that you can go to. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like now that we're, dare I say it, we're opening up. I'm in Ontario like you, so dare I say it, we're opening. But like to do that along with, like, so it's a really experiential. You buy the book, you get a chance to book 10% off, at your local room, plus the author signing the book, plus a handful of other things, right? That might make it a pretty interesting experience, because I think that's what subscription folks are after. And then what happens out of that is, as you build that, all of those folks have their own social media circles that will start to pick and amplify your message, which will help you grow.
Yeah, and we've had great luck with authors, as you said, especially during the pandemic, needing other ways to work with.
Awesome.
So we've got great publisher contacts, and we try to include author letters, signed book plates, things that are value add that they can't get. Yeah, and we do work with a team of Instagram influencers. We change every 3 months to get that word out. Yeah, it's just
the last thing that's really old school but works, because you're working with publishers and then with reviewers that follow the old school ways, is like a press release. So to be able to put out a press release and kind of go, look, we're doing this. It's a little bit like a product launch, right? So every time you do a subscription box, you're putting out a product launch. And so like a lot of these, the people who review books, they do it old school, right? Like that's how Random House, that's how these guys all get them, is they do it old school. They find out, by wire, and then they go and figure out the byline story. So there's an interesting spin there for you to be able to put something out that might, a press release and then like a byline story that you could pitch after, of like, hey, get a shot at interviewing the author with this kind of angle to it, right? Would help you amplify that message, pretty significantly, I think.
great. Thank you. Those are some great suggestions.
Yeah.
That's great. We also have, and Carrie, you may have already done this, but we have a partnership with PR Volt, who's been offering free press releases as well. So if you haven't already, Carrie, feel free to click that button and fill out the type form.
Halfway through it, I keep getting caught up on what to to so yeah.
We can all do that because like PR, I don't know if you've done PR. PR is expensive, and you always feel like you don't get enough out of it, and then you always feel like it isn't quite worth it, but you can't not do it. So if there's free, it's like
free is a great word in PR.
Right? Like if you're doing a North American release or like a Canadian only release through something like Cision would cost you $800-900 a piece, and then North America would cost you $1,800 to $2,000, right? So that's a great value. I would encourage you guys to use that service. Everybody click that button.
So we've had some people,
but everybody click the button because it's.
No, definitely click that button. Take that opportunity for sure. We've had some founders watching us on the Facebook live stream in our founders group on Facebook, and Neha has asked a question. It's here in the chat as well. I posted. How do you manage margins as a reseller? And also, what's your product curation strategy? Would you delist low sellers?
Oh my. I think we have a lot to say on this. Kenny's got years and years and years as a retailer. I bought for a few years, so I don't quite have the same thing. Do you want to?
I'll answer the question backwards. On the second part, you always cull, always, perpetually. Something doesn't sell, burn it. Kent can give you an example one day, to you, Lee. If you ask Kent what he had a cool idea, talked to Phil and I, went through it, and we basically told him, burn it. Like, just don't even look at it. You can sit there and you can hope and pray, and you can pretend you're going to get that top dollar. It's a dog's a dog, move it out. Cash is king. Cash is king. Move things out. Right. That's so on the second part, definitely skew rationalize or cull on a perpetual basis. Collectors, to Dolores' thing, she'll know. Same thing. When something's not hot, you can either wait for the next trend, which could be 15 or 20 years, like in hobby, literally, or you can just cut your losses and you move on. Like, take your winners and go. What was the first part of the question?
Managing margins.
Managing margins. Although, Cynthia, is your follow-up to this last point here? Yeah, so it might be good to jump into this. Cynthia says in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I want to jump in? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I thought that's what you meant. Yes, I was just curious when you said kill it, because like I have style collections, right? And I'll notice, so like, for example, with jewelry, because that's what I do, hand-made jewelry, if I have style A, B, C, D, and then I use stones 1 through 8, and I consistently offer stones 1 through 8 of these styles.
Yeah.
And well, first, obvious, you just said, if stone number 7 and 8 never sells, get rid of those options. Okay. But what if like your style A sells with stone 2 and 3 and style B sells with stone 4 and 5? Should you cull out those other options from each style and offer fewer? Because I was trying to be consistent and be like, you can get these styles always with, let's pretend, 8 stones that I offer different styles. But should you cull out the options that don't sell from those different styles?
I think you follow
basically colors. Let's call them colors.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I
think your margins can dictate that, Phil. Sorry to interrupt. Like in clothing, if you think of the clothing industry, the reason clothing industry runs at 80 and 90 margins, not markups, margins.
Yeah, I have
the reason for that, right?
Okay.
Because I'll produce 12 t-shirts, 12 colors, 12 sizes of each color, right?
Exactly.
I need those margins because I know half are going to sell like really well and I'll make all my margin. And the other ones, I don't know what's going to happen to them. So the reason you pad so much, so when you're looking at your industry, like for what you're doing, if you want to offer variety, you need fat margins to manage dogs. You have to, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I would do it. So to me, it's more what you want to offer as opposed to that I would give you any clear-cut rule. In certain industries, I'm sorry, I like the variety. I may want, as a consumer, 15 options in each size. And you know what? Guess what? You're stuck to it. Now, how you manage your inventory, which in turn manages your cash flow, and how the margin structure
different,
differently, right? But I think it's really
I'm lucky
dependent on what you are. For the most
I mean,
part, so, you know,
I make on demand, so I don't have
Yeah.
to, I mean, I have
That's
material,
different, though. I think you're
material
in a
I have
better
in
spot
stock,
that way.
but as far as offering all those options, I don't have them sitting around and made, I make as you order, so.
then I
So
don't think
once
it
I've done
matters
the,
necessarily how much
okay,
you
so I
offer.
was curious if there was a mental thing there, like where people psychologically think, you know, why do you, okay, cool.
To me, it's, you
Thank
know
you.
what, to me, it's always the same. Less is more for the most part. Like if you're talking consumer packaged goods, it typically less is more, because consumers, as much as they tell you they want thousands of selections, if you ask retailers or online sellers, it's the same 12 items that sell and the same 150 that nobody sells, even though everybody says they want all the options on the planet. That's great, but I don't want to hold the inventory on it. So for your position, Cynthia, if you're making as you go, I'm not convinced it really matters too much if you have great selection, and maybe in your industry, it's actually probably a benefit. I just wouldn't want to hold it in inventory that's done, because now I'm stuck with cash. Right.
And then I have a physical store that I bring the one-offs that are, if I have them left over, and I've made them, I bring them to the physical store and then they sell as random. So that makes a lot of sense. That helps. Thank you.
So online, the other thing that you want to do is you could alternate out styles, right? So
yeah,
like the online will drive your analytics as well. It'll tell you what people like and what they don't like. So if it's an online thing, you can rotate out combinations till you find the right combinations, right? You know, and then there's an online play for if you kind of marry the two of like culling the low SKUs, is the online version allows you to, I don't know why it comes to mind, but like a bouillabaisse. So for all the low hanging things that don't sell, is there a combo that you can make that helps you clear out inventory, right? So I would definitely, you know, because it'll help you optimize your SKUs. It's essentially what we do, right? Is you kind of look at like, okay, so I'm never touching the top 10, but like bottom 80, you know, bottom 10 go away, you know, it creates another bottom 10. So you're always culling, you know, and trying to figure out what you can force into the top 10, right? So that your lineup is as strong as possible.
I think in your space, just because you don't hold inventory and you basically are making to order, you are in a lot less risky position than most of what Phil and I deal with, which is CPG, which is already made. Like I've got 12 boxes of cracker flavor. You know, the bottom 3, I mean, if nobody wants them, I got to get the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I can't sit on it. Right. You can play seasons. You might play some stones are great in the summer, maybe Canada, because we're colder longer than you know, Alabama. You can play different color stones in Canada longer than maybe in the States. Maybe you need to move more frequent. I don't know. Depends what you are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool though.
Coming back to the first part of the question.
Never mind. Thank you.
I can see you moving. I was going to say you're on your own.
You did the reverse. I was unmuted when I thought I was. So, I'm sorry. Continue. Sorry, Lee.
You're doing great. No, you're great. You touched on this a little bit, but coming back to the first part of the question was, you know, how do you manage margins as a reseller? And connected to that, you know, what's your product curation strategy?
Yeah, I think margins. I think Kenny covered it, but just from a like to kind of like put a pin in it is the margins depend on your product strategy. So if you're going to carry a ton of assortment, make sure you're padding enough margin to cover top and bottom sellers. You know, and then I think the product curation strategy, we kind of talked about this, but we didn't, I guess. So the strategy depends on what you want to do. Like in Cynthia's case, if you're picking collections that you can manage, and then you don't have a significant inventory list, you curate to what you feel people want, and then you autocorrect as you go. If you carry a ton of inventory, then it is about getting rid of the bottom feeder so that you kind of keep moving, right? So you
got to keep cash moving.
It's consuming, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Neha's actually here now. I don't know if you want to add some to your question, because when it was first answered, sort of specific to Cynthia's situation, and I don't know if you want to clarify what was driving your question too.
Yeah, sure. Hi. I was watching you guys on Facebook, and it was so helpful. I'm like, I need to jump on this. On this
we know we were on Facebook, but thank you for watching us there.
Oh, glad you're watching.
You're in the ClearAngel. Okay, honey. This is my son, Mason. He is just hanging out to say hi. Hi. So my question really was, I work at, I'm actually wearing the t-shirt, but our store's called Switch Grocery. And we carry consumer packaged foods. So and when we started the company, we decided, so it's so interesting. The themes were limiting choice for customers, carrying paleo and keto friendly food. So a niche, carrying only one product per category, one brand per category, excuse me. And we have grown based on that premise to be between like under 2 million in sales in Canada.
Good for you.
So, well, it's taken 4 years. Thank you. It's taken 4 years.
That's still good. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you so much. So now we're really looking at, our differentiator is that we don't have selection, but we also, like, the team is always pushing me and my co-founder that we're so strict on our selection that our customers, we could be like losing revenue in terms of like, we don't provide, like, for example, we don't carry anything in specific categories. Also, one brand makes up 50% of our sales, which is, as you know, it would be a risk in some ways.
That's the only risky part I've heard so far. That one scares me a bit.
Yeah. And the big win that we have is we do have in Canada, we have exclusives with the US brands that we carry.
That's huge.
So they trust us, we don't have the margin to go to a distributor and add 40%. So we buy from them directly and sell across Canada. So I think I've started to kind of like lose a little bit of sleep at night because I'm just like, do we carry, like, our motto is we don't carry anything that's available in a grocery store. It has to be like as small as farmers market. So we have a lot of duds, right? Because we'll go and like find a marine collagen from like Nova Scotia and it's not moving at all. But like our premise is we help small Canadian food brands, but it's the bigger sort of like mid-market US brands that are driving people to our site. And then they pick up everything sort of. So that's why I was asking about the product curation strategy, because we are now in this situation where one brand is 50% of our sales. We have an exclusive. We probably have a number of years, I don't know, maybe an e-com 9 months before this becomes a problem. But yeah, I would love your advice.
The one brand at 50% worries me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of your business parked into one brand. And so you got an exclusivity, you got a contract with them for on exclusivity. And your clause out is probably what, 30 days, 60 days?
We don't actually have, okay, I'll be honest, we don't have a signed contract.
That's not necessarily the best move, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a train wreck. I built a house on a handshake, so you can do it. You don't need contracts on everything in life, but quite frankly, it's probably not a bad idea. Because with no contract, I mean, even a contract, and just so you know, typical contract, distributor broker contract, 30 days.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you're right. And the biggest thing we have is reputation and relationships. So the brands actually come to us and say, can we list with you? I will say, like, if you go to even our site, we have about 250 SKUs, 25 brands. And it's starting to seem like we're not able to provide products that our customers need to them. Like my whole thing of like, we're not going to, thank you, sweetie. We're not going to list. Like, I'm wondering, like, am I too stuck on this product curation strategy when it seems like the message we're getting from our customers is, oh, I wish you carried X so I could pick it up and round out my basket, or I wish you carried Y. So it's almost like your strength can also become your weakness a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I'd want you to think about whether it's a strict rule or whether it's a philosophy you're after. I guess I don't know how you feel about this, Kenny. Like, so the way I think of the business, one is I worry about the same thing Kenny does. So half of your business being with one brand, but then I also think of there are folks out in the industry. Costco is a great example where Costco says the same thing, which is we don't need, millions of brands in here.
4,000 SKUs. That's it.
We need the leader in the category. We need maybe our own house brand, and maybe if the category justified, maybe one more. So you really got like 3 brands, and that model works very well. But so do you know what I mean? Like, so you can have, if your operating model is we are only going to have 1 brand, that's an operating model, and then with all the SKU stuff, you'd probably have to find another way to make sure that you're balancing out all of your exclusivities.
Right.
The other way to think of this is if it's a philosophy, maybe it really becomes, look, like I'm going to give you some choice, but you're not getting 8 brands in this category. You're not getting 5. Maybe you get the top 2, that we think is, because part of your value is you bring expertise to the category. You understand what keto brands are good, but I don't want to change the way you operate. I just want you to think about them as 2 different ways or dimensions about thinking about this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think Phil's spot. I mean, Costco does have definitive rules.
Yeah.
It's a rule. Like Costco carries 4,000 SKUs in essence in totality. That's all there's in that store. It seems like there's a billion. There's not.
Yeah.
There's 1 or 2 peanut butter options. There's maybe 10 cereal options. But even the cereal options, one will be a flake, one will be a round, one will be, that's how they do things. They don't give you. Costco's figured out that, I think we talked about this earlier. Costco learned that as much as consumers will say, oh, yeah, I need all this, they don't. If anything, the pandemic's taught most Canadian retailers, and I know the States is the same, supply chain is still a train wreck. It's still a disaster out there. And what retailers are all doing is they are all going through massive SKU rats because they're saying, you know what, I used to carry 7 pasta brands, 50 cuts per brand. When the pandemic hit and my shelves were empty, the first brand that came in, no matter who it was bought, which shows that no matter what consumers say, they will buy what's there. So I'm kind of like Phil. I like your philosophy. I think it's very cool that you want to be 1 brand per category. I don't know if I'd hang on to that, but that's not my decision. That's yours. But I mean, if you ever wanted to talk, I could talk you through what I probably would want to bend that one potentially. I love the fact that I would come to you as, okay, if Neil lists it, I should buy it, because otherwise, I mean, she wouldn't list it if it wasn't worth buying. So you are now the expert in the category, so like a Costco. Trader Joe's, same thing. Trader Joe's 4,000 SKUs, 3,500 are theirs, 500 are other people's. People go to Trader Joe's. I've got people in Canada. Trader Joe's best almonds in the world. I know the guy who makes the almonds. They're in Vancouver. They make them for everybody, guys. It's the same freaking almond. It's the same almond. You don't like the president's choice. It's the same almond. You're just paying 10 times in Trader Joe's.
I'm one of those guys. The Trader Joe almonds taste better. I don't care what you say.
It was Golden Boy in Burnaby. My God, it's the same freaking almonds. But that's great. But they've got the consumer so knowing that no, Trader Joe. So you could be that person. That's no. If she doesn't carry it. It's keto paleo. I'm not buying it. But you may want to. You may have to look at. I mean, if you're fundamentally that's your rule and you're ground in, fine. It makes it difficult for you because a 50% brand one is a real. I don't like that. I'm sorry. That one gives me the shakes. That's way too much into one bucket. That's a hard one. But good for you, man. That's a cool. That's a nice size business. Great category. That you'll have to send us the links and maybe we'll share it even on the podcast. I always got people looking, and I don't know who to send people to for keto and paleo in Canada. So we'll send them to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That's great. Okay, so to round us out, last question here, because then we're going to be at time. We have Lori asking for inventory. What have you found to be the most effective but simple tool available currently to track stock, keep evaluation, etc.?
This one's hard because it depends on what you use for software. Honestly, I would say, okay, so from my end, what I would say is I think you want to just make sure that you're tracking all the elements, right? So as long as you've got a sense of what you're shipping out the door, what you've got on hand, I don't know if the tool matters that much. I think keeping track of the data, because I find that at the stages that you guys are at in general, the hardest part is you do, and then you don't keep track and you don't think about what's there. So
Or you
honestly,
start a habit, you don't keep the
yeah,
habit. So an
yeah,
Excel spreadsheet, Lori, is more than
yeah.
enough. Fill the Excel sheet. My hobby list of inventory is a train wreck. You know why? I start my spreadsheet. I sell a ton of stuff. I forget to go in, or I get busy. I'm doing other things because it's hobby, right? So I do some other things. 3 months later, I'm going, oh shit, what the hell did I do? Oh, I got to go back and refill the inventory from the past. Make sure my counts are on. You know, make sure I didn't lose any money on what I sold, because it's not something I do. I think really inventory, like for your world, probably a spreadsheet's more than enough. You just got to be on it. Discipline yourself so that every day you're going into it, cleaning it up and staying on top of it. I don't think you need anything. Again, I don't know what you care. If you've got $100,000 worth of SKUs in the house spread out over 10,000 items, it does make it a little more fun. But no matter what you use, you still need the time to put it into the system, no matter what it is. So to me, probably a spreadsheet with some filters is probably more than enough. If you were in an actual store and you had POS that was, you know, communicating with your inventory program, that might be a different world. I mean, QuickBooks probably has some options you could use. I don't know the size your business or where you're at. I don't know if you need to be there as much as discipline yourself, that actually go in and don't be a me. Actually change your inventory. Remember that you don't have that Gretzky card anymore. You actually sold it, because I've done that, right? You know, sold 2 Gretzky cards, but I only had the one. I just forgot that I sold it 6 months ago because, you know, heaven forbid, I've gone into my inventory and updated it. But that's hobby, right?
I think the only other advice, just from the tech part of me, which I think the Clearco guys might be able to help you with, is if you're going to use an inventory tool, don't make compromises, right? So don't get something that's going to, like, if it doesn't integrate with your POS or it doesn't do, you know what? We're in the age of keeping everything together. Yeah. So like that's the danger of using a spreadsheet. But if you have the discipline to do it, it's great, right? But if you don't, and you have a POS, make sure it does what you need it to do, so that you have the, you know, because the data is all there, right? So don't make sure.
And most programs, Phil, will take an upload from Excel, right? Yeah. So if you are on your Excel sheet, if that's as sophisticated as you get today, like 99% of the software out there will take uploads from Excel, at least on the first hit. So clean data in, you know, it's the garbage in, garbage out. So like if it's clean, if you decide to get to the point where you are running electronic POS, most, like the vast most, will take an upload. But if it's crappy data, it's crappy data. It doesn't change. It's really discipline. It's a hard one though. Hobby's tough, Lori, because things change so fast. You know, and because we're not electronic. I mean, we're on eBay or you're on Amazon or whatever it is. You're not, or Facebook Marketplace. You're not. Like, it's the wheeling and dealing that's the drive. Yeah, it's discipline. Do as I say, not as I do on this one.
I loved don't be a me, and do as I say, not as I do.
Like on this one, seriously, do as I say, not as I do. Oh my God, I'm so bad with my inventory. It's not even funny.
Well,
so bad.
You guys have been amazing. Thank you, Phil, Kenny. Thank you to all of our founders who joined in here and on Facebook. We're looking forward to having you back. And everyone have a great day. I am going to stop the recording now, but that doesn't mean the call has to end immediately, but just saying our official goodbyes for the recording side of things here.
And everybody has access to Phil and I. Like, if I mean, our podcast, we have